Welcome to the Opinionation Podcast, where free speech, opinions, and original thought still matter in America.
Welcome back, everyone. It is I, King Daddy. Welcome to the Opinionation Podcast. I would like to start off by apologizing for my absence as of late. I have had to change some medication, and to be honest with you, I'd never taken this before. It was, for anybody who's familiar with this medication, it was Cymbalta, which is an antidepressant, but I take it for nerve pain in my feet and legs, and it literally knocked me on my ass to the point of not even be able to function or raise my head up. The first weekend that I took it, I slept all weekend, like nonstop. My wife and I went out to eat, and I couldn't even hold my head up at the table. So that medication fucked me up pretty bad. I eventually got used to taking it. I'm still taking it. It seems to do what it was meant to do. Still a little yawny every once in a while, and got a slight bit of fatigue, but the absolute death vibe is gone, and I no longer feel like I'm just falling out. I can drive again. I'm not too sleepy to drive. But I appreciate all the emails and the nice thoughts on social media for everybody who wished me well. And I would like to go ahead and tell you right now that you can still reach us at opinionation84@gmail.com for email. And we are opinionation84 on both Twitter and Instagram. If you would like to keep up with us there, we are back. Hopefully, I won't be taking a hiatus again for quite a while until I go on vacation in October. But I can't promise you that, because every time I go to the doctor, they seem to want to change medication. But without further ado, let's jump right into this. I want to talk about a touchy subject today. But I want to start off with some factual numbers that I pulled up from the U.S. Census Bureau before I get into what I'm actually going to talk about. White people in America make up approximately 76% of the population. Black people in America make up approximately 13.5% of the population in America, with everybody else in America falling, between Asian, Hispanic, Native American, whatever. But that's not really what we're getting into. Violent crime statistics for 2018, I believe this was, 1,283,220 violent crimes. Legal handgun owners in America are 72% of the population. Rifles are 62%. Shotguns are 54%, making up approximately 393 million legal guns owned in this country. So, here's my point. White people, as we know, most of your school shooters and your mass shooters are white. There's been an occasion where it was not, but most of them are white. I do not have the numbered statistic for that, but I do know that most of them are white. All of your school shooters, your church shooters have been white. But 52.5% of all homicides in this country between 1980 and 2008, 52.5% were committed by blacks, and most of those were intraracial, which means they were killing their own people. 52.5%. In 2013, 51% of murders in this country were committed by blacks. 33% or 33.5% were committed by whites. Now, that does not sound like the numbers are that far off, considering that 51% and 33% are only, about 17% difference. But when you consider the fact that one race of people makes up 76.8% of the population, and their homicide numbers are lower by 17% than a population of people who only make up 13.4% of the population in America. So let me give you the big numbers here. Blacks in America, 0.012%, or 42 million of them, have committed some form of violent crime, while white America, 0.0014, or 198,000. But you have to look at the percentage of the amount of people that we have. Again, 76.8% of America is Caucasian. 13.4% of America is black. So what we have here is a news media who gets on television every time a mass shooting takes place. And don't get me wrong, the mass shootings are horrendous. They should never happen. Some of the worst things that have ever taken place in America is for somebody to walk into a school or a church and gun down people. But what the news media never seems to scream about, what the activists never seem to scream about, are how many individual violent crimes or homicides are taking place in the black community every single day. And I'm not separating this out to say that white people are less violent than black people, or that black people are worse than white people. I'm not saying that. The reason why I am saying these statistics is because why don't we have a warrior stand up, especially in the black community, somebody with some notoriety, somebody with some clout, and just say, I understand that the mass shootings are horrible, but this has got to stop. We have got people in the streets who are committing crimes and killing each other at a much higher rate than any of the other crimes taking place in America, but we choose not to be activists against it. We only want to be activists against the smaller percentage crimes because it sounds better for the gun control lobby. Now, very few of these crimes committed by the white people are done with legal firearms. Most of your legal gun owners are only involved in shootings if it has something to do with the protection of your property or your home or your family. But black people are killing each other in the streets. There was an incident the other day. Now, nobody got murdered, thank God, in this, but a group of black men walked into a jewelry store, and I believe this was either in Los Angeles or New York. I can't remember which one. But they walked into the jewelry store pretending to be customers, and this jewelry store was known for being a jewelry store that catered to rappers. So the look of these men didn't really throw up a red flag for these people, but they walked in, asked to see jewelry, and all of a sudden pulled out handguns and stole about $4 million worth of jewels. Now again, thankfully nobody was killed or harmed in this scenario, but that's a violent crime committed by a group of black men. Nobody knows as to whether or not their guns were legal. That's not an argument because nobody wants to make the argument about all the illegal guns, Because here's the thing about gun control. If you control the guns, you're controlling legal guns that American citizens who have clean records and pass background checks purchase legally. So in order to have gun control, you're going to hurt the people that are doing nothing wrong. And you're ignoring the people who have illegal guns, who are doing everything wrong, who are taking advantage of society, committing crimes, and nobody seems to care. You know, they brush over these news stories like there's nothing. The only time that the news stories ever really make a loud peep when it comes to this is if one of these perpetrators happens to get shot by the police in the process, and then all of a sudden it becomes a police brutality matter. And I'm not going to say that police brutality doesn't happen, because it does. But there's also been some innocent police officers who've been gunned down eating their dinner and sitting in their car. So there's a left shoe and a right shoe, and one shoe's getting a little bit more attention than the other because it sounds better in the gun control debate argument. But nobody wants to do anything when it comes to the sheer amounts of violence that are taking place in our streets. I mean, here in Charlotte, I think that the murder rate, and again, I don't have the exact numbers, but I know that we have already surpassed last year's numbers, and we still have 4 months to go, and 90% of the people who've been arrested for crimes or who have committed crimes are black, and they have guns. Where are they getting these guns? They're not buying these guns at gun stores. But yet they want to control the guns that are legally purchased in the United States of America by people who have the right to defend themselves. Well, guess what? If you take away a person's right to defend themselves by taking away their guns, then you've created a society full of victims because, listen to me closely, bad guys don't follow the fucking law. They don't care what the law says. You can pass all the gun laws you want, and they're going to break it because that's what they do. So by taking guns away from legalized citizens, you're making victims out of us. You're making us sitting ducks for the people in this country who do not give a shit about our laws. But why does the news media not scream about this? Why does the news media continue to hammer gun control laws? Why does Congress continue to want to talk about gun control legislation and stricter background checks when it's not the people who own the legal guns that are committing crimes out there? I don't understand the logic in why they're doing what they're doing. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to me. So now we're going to take criminals. We're going to criminalize what does not need to be criminalized, and we're basically going to ignore what should be criminalized. It's almost a blasphemy of our very own law. It is more than a blasphemy of our very own law. It's a fucking joke is what it is. Because you have all these people out there who are committing these crimes, they're shooting people in the streets. I mean, they're getting so bold in Charlotte now that they're walking into restaurants during the middle of their lunch shift and pulling out a gun and taking their money and killing people in the middle of the restaurant with a house full of customers. So you're telling me that if a legal gun owner were sitting in a restaurant, now I understand the argument that most people who have a gun got into a situation like this probably wouldn't do shit. I'm aware. But do you want to really take that chance? Do you really want to take the chance of opportunity that somebody who is a legal gun owner with a right to carry a weapon could not stop some of this crime because the police are getting there after the fact? The police are cleaning up the mess after it's over. But a legal gun owner could clean up the mess while it's happening. But the problem with that is, all of a sudden, you have a legal gun owner who shoots somebody who is holding a gun on his family and other patrons in the middle of a restaurant, and he is victimized by the news media. So he's victimized twice. Once by the perpetrator of the crime, and then by the news media who victimizes the person for protecting a restaurant full of people. And next thing you know, they're the criminal. And the police are getting sued by the criminal's family for shooting them in the parking lot, having to pay large sums of money for their family for wrongful death suits when they got what was coming to them. You don't walk into a room full of people in a restaurant during the middle of lunch service and pull out a gun and shoot, which I believe in this particular restaurant I'm talking about, they shot one of the kitchen staff who actually came out and tried to stop it. And now he's dead. The perpetrator got shot by the police in the parking lot. But a person with a legalized gun sitting in the back of the restaurant could have probably taken care of business and handled this problem. But that's not how we work here in America. In America, we have to criminalize your everyday citizen for doing the right thing. You have to criminalize honest, hard-working people who like to buy guns and own them for the protection of themselves, their family, and others. And you want to pass gun legislation that makes it more difficult or illegal for them to have a firearm. Now, I do understand background checks. I do. Because you don't want people who are mentally deranged being able to get their hands on legalized weapons and then using them to commit mass shootings or other crimes. That would be wrong as well. So I'm not saying that I think you should be able to willy-nilly sell a gun to anybody who walks in the gun store. Background checks are a must. And I even agree with more deeper background legislation, but I do not agree with the abolishment of the Second Amendment. I do not agree with taking the guns from legalized citizens. You're going to get more people killed. You're going to get more police officers killed. You're going to get more people raped and robbed. You're going to get more businesses taken advantage of because you've taken the rights away from people to protect themselves. Why would you want to do that? Why would anybody with a brain want to take legal gun owners' rights away so the criminals can take advantage of us in the streets? They're already killing each other in the streets. They're already committing 52.5% of the homicides, 51.3 in 2013 alone. But you want to take the guns away from a legal gun-owning citizen who has a Second Amendment right to own their gun. Background check all you want to. If somebody's got a criminal record or a psychological record don't sell them the gun. And if they really want to do something with a gun, hell, they can find one on the street. All these other people find guns on the street and use them for damage. All these other guns out on the street that are killing people are stolen. We had a rash here a couple of years ago. Hadn't heard too much about it lately. But people were crashing their cars through the front door of gun stores and cleaning out the weapons from the gun stores. And then these weapons were being used in crimes. So, I mean, make the gun shop owners lock their guns up in a safe at night. Make the background checks a little bit more stringent. But don't take the Second Amendment rights away from citizens. Don't do it. You're killing us. You are making us the United States of the vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable, we're targets. And when we're targets, we're just as good as dead. I am pleading right now with our local and federal government not to do this to the citizens of this country. Take crime on where it exists, in the streets, not in the private residence of individual law-abiding citizens who own guns, because that's just not right. And this is King Daddy, and that is my opinion.